1, 2, 3, go.
Jennifer Hardy Har.
Believe it or not,
Welcome to the Lawyer Dana Show.
the Lawyer Dana podcast.
Wow, we have a lot to talk about.
And we're going to do it right after this.
Welcome to the Lawyer Dana Podcast.
Okay, for those that don't, because there may be somebody in North Alaska that doesn't know who our guest is today, but this is Judge Aubrey Moorehead from which number court in Dallas County?
3.
Criminal Court
Number
at
3.
Law, number 3. That's the only thing you're number 3 in. You're otherwise number 1.
Number one. Number one in my weight class.
You're number 1 in number 3. It's better than I'm number 2. I'm kind of.
Oh my gosh.
What do you? All right, so Audrey and I, we've given some CLEs together, and we get rave reviews because it's hilarious. And I think that this may be the funniest podcast that we are going to do yet to date. And we're going to learn a lot, maybe, or not, or just have some fun. So you and I have known each other. We met on New Year's Eve, like 4 or 5 years ago or something? Or
Yeah, about 5 years ago.
was it? Yeah.
Well before the pandemic.
Yes. When you could go out.
Yes.
It was on New Year's Eve and live through it.
Yeah.
Well, some people. It is amateur night on New Year's Eve.
Yes, it is.
I'm surprised that I actually went out because Summer and I usually don't go out on New Year's Eve or like 4th of July.
Moving target.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. You get on the freeway and it's crazy.
Yeah.
You're the only one sober, assuming that you're sober.
Yeah, but we were friends immediately. I mean, we hit
Oh,
it
I know.
off like
Within 10
it was like,
seconds.
yeah, it was like we'd known each other
Yeah.
forever.
Yeah. It was great. And a lot of fun. That's when I was drinking. So I've waited to the podcast to tell you, do you know that I quit drinking in September?
Well, good for you.
And I've lost 40 pounds and I changed my diet.
It changes your life, doesn't it?
Yeah, I actually haven't felt this good since I was 16.
Where did y'all meet at?
You remember the name of that place? Somewhere in Oak Cliff, right?
Yeah. Was it the Network Bar?
Yes. Are
Was
they
it
still
ne-
open?
Yeah, they're still open. It's a really great concept on this Ralph Lauren Polo Club situation that they have, like in New York, where you pay for a membership and it's very exclusive. But
Are you a member?
it's built. I'm a
Oh,
member.
cool.
Right off day one, I was like, oh yeah, this is my jam. This is my jam. Because in this house, the Network Bar, and yeah, it is a bar, but it's a full service restaurant and meeting facility. So as a member, you get to use the facilities and all that stuff. But what makes it really unique is that they have an app that when you're a member, when you get there, you can look and see who else is in there in your
cool.
network. And so there's somebody in there who does construction law, for instance, and I'm interested in something with construction.
that's a
I
good
can say,
idea.
I can send them a message and say, hey, this is Audrey and I'm sitting over here and I was wondering if I could speak to you, or whatever. But you can
That
connect
is
with
super
people. They
cool.
had a
That's a great
mentoring
idea.
program.
I think a
and
lot of places should be doing things like that and
Yeah, that'd be really cool.
it's great for meeting spaces.
wherever you are.
Yeah.
I was still practicing law at that time. I was
Yeah, I
still,
remember. It was before
so
you took the bench.
I used the space, to meet clients and it made you look like, you're really important even though you're not. And it's all about marketing. You use all the
yeah.
tools in your toolbox. And so that's where that was at the Network Bar.
Nice.
It was fun too.
So how long have you been on the bench now?
This is my 4th year.
Yeah.
It went by really fast.
Wow. It seems like, I mean, I think about it, but it seems like we just met too. I mean, I realize it's been a while. But so, are you up for re-election this year then?
I actually am. I
You have an opponent?
No, I do not.
Okay.
I do not. I am not a very attractive opponent. It's hard to run against somebody that people know. I mean, when you stay visible and active in your community, you make it very difficult for somebody to come along and say, "Well, hey, y'all don't know her,"
Oh, yeah,
And so
that's
I try to make sure I stay out there and working and participating. So no, I don't have an opponent in the November election.
Well, you're very active in bar associations. So I saw you a couple of weeks ago. You were the keynote speaker, right, at the Bar Leaders Conference for Texas.
I sure was.
Oh.
And I did. It was everything I could not to
Call me out.
call you out.
I knew it. I saw you
wanted to
looking.
do it.
I was like,
wanted to-
I'm just waiting for
but
it.
I was,
It's gonna
I was
happen.
good, but I thought, I didn't want anybody else in there to feel like they weren't special.
Oh, yeah.
But they weren't special.
So now you just put it on the podcast.
Well, it's true. They weren't. I mean, they weren't special like you're special. But I didn't want to, I didn't want to alienate anybody. People get feeling weird and they want their name called too. You didn't call my name. And I was like, oh, wow. But I
At
was
that point, you
thinking
just
about
wind
it.
up reading the rouster who's in the room.
Yeah,
There was
then
too many
it's a
people in
whole
the room
thing.
to call
It was a
everybody in
whole
there.
thing. I mean, I just went with the one.
Well, and if you would have done that,
Example.
I mean, the president of the state bar, like all the directors are there. You would have had to go down a list.
Yeah.
I was way down that list.
You weren't way down on that list for me.
Well, in Audrey world, I might be up here,
Yeah.
but I think
Yeah.
in regular world,
yeah, and they were.
I'm just like that dude right back there in that picture.
And I know all those people and have known them a long time,
Yeah.
but don't have the level of affection that I do with you.
Aw,
That's true.
Nice.
That's true. But I really was trying, because what I was talking about was leadership, transformational
Oh, yeah.
leadership,
Oh, yeah.
and
That was excellent.
and how that manifests itself in people when they're in certain leadership positions. And lawyers, and by general, just on general principle, we're all leaders. And people
Mm-hmm.
assume they just assume it. You're a leader in your community. You're a leader in it just comes with, right? But so I think there's a duty at some point to be the best you can be. And transformational leadership was what I was talking about that day. And Dana is
Yep.
sort of like that. I mean, this whole concept of this podcast shows what transformational leadership can look like when you take it to a different level.
Right. Absolutely.
That's one of the big things. I already knew I wanted you for the podcast, but when you gave that speech, I was like, oh, we got to get her on the podcast to talk about that. Because that's really what the podcast is about, is what all it takes in order to do something like what we do. And the we being me, Jennifer, you, all the guests that come in, and to shed light into that world, because people don't really see what is really the life of the lawyer. They see some stuff on TV, which is a combination of soap opera and imaginary court things, which most of the time don't bear a whole lot of resemblance to what actually happens in court.
Right.
And
yeah.
they
I've
don't-
never ever said fruit of the poisonous tree. I may have heard it like 1,000 times on Law and Order, but I've never said it. And I swear that's the question. What's that fruit of the poisonous tree? I don't know. What I don't say.
My husband won't even watch shows that have anything to do with law.
Summer won't watch them with
except
me.
Better Call Saul.
Oh, yeah.
But
you watch
be-
Better Call Saul?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Are you up to
Yeah.
date?
I'm the Breaking Bad. No, I got
One
I'm gonna do a
episode
season.
left.
Yes.
Yeah, I have
On
to
Monday.
binge watch. I have to binge watch, right? I have to binge watch it.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I was the Breaking Bad.
Oh, yeah.
I was just
I kind of want to watch
obsessed.
Breaking Bad again.
I was obsessed.
I think I could rewatch it.
I was going to be the future Mrs. Heidelberg. Audrey Heidelberg. That was it. That was who I was going to be.
Well, and my husband watches
You would have been better than
anything-
Skylar? Is that what you're saying?
like anything with law. Like I was watching Lincoln Lawyer the other day, and he was like, "I
The TV
object
show
to
or the-
this."
or the movie?
No,
The movie?
TV show.
TV show?
Yeah, he was like, "I object," and I was like, "What are you objecting for?" He's like, "I don't like this stuff." I'm like, "Then go in the other room." Don't
Summer
watch it."
and I were watching some of the Depp Heard trial. Did you watch any of that? The Johnny Depp trial?
A little of it, but it just was too upsetting.
Oh, yeah.
It was emotional. It was just emotional because I was like, they are making all of this money and they are inept. Bar license are leaving
Well,
as we speak.
I was sitting there on a lot of times I was like hitting my objections, and then about half the time they would make that same objection right after I did. I was like, well, I think faster than they do, don't I? So, but I was, and so, you know that one witness, because this is a very interesting thing, and I want to get a lot of judges' perspectives on this. One of Johnny Depp's witnesses was excluded because she was listening into testimony. Basically violated the rule. So there's a thing in Texas called the rule. Do you know what rule number it is? I don't even remember what number it is. We just call it the rule. And what the rule is that no other witness can observe another witness's testimony, because then everybody gets their story and keeps it straight. So it's that everybody hears, or nobody hears anybody else's testimony. You just answer the question that's asked and you don't bias it. And so at the beginning, we invoke the rule.
Right. You have to invoke the rule,
You have to invoke the rule, and then the judge will admonish everybody. You can't talk about it with anybody else. You can't, talk about it with each other. What you can talk about it with a lawyer,
Right.
but even so, and then everybody has to leave. Well, somebody was watching the footage on TV, and so the judge just automatically excluded that witness's testimony. And I was like, so if you're a witness that doesn't want to testify for somebody, you just violate the rule, or like what? Because my initial thought was to Judge Roach. I was like, I think Judge Roach would have put her in jail and still let her testify, and maybe not penalize the litigant or something, and then admonish the jury of that the testimony may be tainted based on listening to something else or something like that. That was maybe a thought of how I might do it. Although this disclaimer, I get asked to be a judge a lot, and my answer is no. I couldn't. I mean, I could probably. I just don't particularly want to, because I don't like having to make that particular final decision. And I don't know. And campaigning, like, I don't know. Like, I have a bunch of people on my side for it, and I mean, I get asked almost like on a monthly basis. And I'm just like, no.
If I had known what campaigning was, and I had worked on campaigns, I worked on different sides of issues, because I was nonpartisan in my spirit, right? I help people, good people get elected to whatever. Good people, that's what you want, the best of anybody. That's what you want. So that's what I would do, and working on the campaigns are very different than running your own campaign. And had I known what running my own campaign would be like, I might have approached it with a lot more trepidation than I did. And I said the same thing about law school.
Great.
If anybody could articulate what law school is actually like, nobody can describe it. There just
it's a 3-year hazing.
That is not even it. It's even something else more nebulous. You can't. If somebody had explained it to me, I would have declined it on his face. I would have been like, no, thank you. I'm gonna, no.
Part of it is you don't realize how screwed you are until it's too late. You cross the Rubicon, and like, well, I may as well go forward.
My mama told everybody at the church. I mean, what can I do now? Everybody, everybody knows. So
once mama tells the church,
my mama told everybody. I said, why are you telling people I'm in law school? It's like the first trimester. Can I get through?
Proud of you.
To see if I'm gonna be able to make the team.
It is. It's like the first trimester giving birth.
Like, oh gosh, I don't even know if I'm gonna make the team. Yeah, I mean, that's the way.
And really,
it works.
I think it's divided into thirds, because you don't get your first semester grades until halfway through the second semester, and there's 6 semesters. So 1.5 semesters is kind of where you're at, and then then there's that second phase, because once your grades come in, then there's that massive shock of, what is this really? Your whole paradigm changes based on where the grades come out, and then you decide whether or not you care or not.
Right.
And the interesting thing was that do you know the story? I wasn't in law school to become an attorney. I went to be the CEO of a company. And I wanted to know what the lawyers knew, and I wanted to be able to evaluate a lawyer that I hired, and I wanted to know who are the lawyers that you should hire. And I figured for that, and $250,000 in 3 years of my life as a CEO, that'll be worth it. Because if I don't have that, then if those things are messed up, like, I will have stress, and I don't want to live that life. Because I had owned a business 3 years prior to going to law school, and I negotiated a lease on my own, and I didn't know what I didn't know, and I got screwed over on the lease because there was construction on the front, and people could not get to my coffee shop, couldn't get there, wouldn't come in, and I should have been able to assume the lease from the prior owner. And they were, at the time, based on the terms of the lease, legally required to let me assume that. But instead, they made me sign another one, and then my rent went up about 18 months before that road was done, and it shouldn't have. So my rent really should have been like $200, and it was 10 times that, or I think it was like $1,300. Back then, $1,300 was a lot.
Yeah.
And so my coffee shop, I turned it into a live music venue. So it's very similar to the room that we're in, with the drum set that was in it and a stage that I built. Except this room is 1,911 square feet. My coffee shop was 1,305 square feet. And I had windows like this on one side that I had to board up because of the mosh pits. I was certain that somebody was going to go through the windows. And we would fit, wall to wall, and you could fit another person as long as they crowd surfed in, having bands.
Yeah, I could see where a law degree would have assisted you with assessing the liability of
Yes.
that.
Yes. The good news
Business
is I was
model.
pretty judgment proof at the time because I basically had nothing. On the first day because I had enough to get in, and on the first day, one, I didn't know how to make coffee, and two, I had a case of 20-ounce Cokes, but I had a PA that I could do, and I invited people in and for like an event, and I got up this was probably the real first episode of the podcast. I got on the mic and was just telling about the vision and what we want to do, and so people started buying the Cokes for $20 from me. One guy I remember came up and gave me $100 for one of the Cokes to keep me going, and I made it happen. But the place was so small that I realized, okay, if I do everything, if I book the bands, if I bartend, if I run sound, if I work the front door, if I, because we had a cover charge for the bands, and if I mop the place, do all the janitorial, fix
Can I
the
ask
toilets
you a
when
question?
they clog.
Do you clone yourself through this
No.
process?
So what I had a couple of different people, and so I would have to do the highest value. So if it was if it was a high school band, then I would probably work either if we did advance tickets and they're only taking advance tickets at the door and people really aren't buying tickets at the door, then I might run sound or might run the bar, but it just depends. If there was a lot of cash coming in the front door, then I would want to work the front door.
Right.
But I would have other people on that. But I had to be there every single minute, and the most I could ever have was 3 other employees at a time, just because of the size. And the days that I would make the most money were Tuesdays when I would have high school bands. And this was the brilliance of having a coffee shop. I could sell them coffee too. And so I would sell the most tickets on those nights because I would make them buy 30 tickets at a time for $5, and then the next 30, and the face value was $7 for underage. And so they would make $60 if they can only sell 30 tickets. Then they would get the next 30 for 50 cents less, and then 50 cents less down to $2.50 was the floor.
Okay.
And then they were selling them for that. So if they sold 300 tickets, they would make like more than $1,000. I think it was 300 times. Yeah, they would make like 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so they'd make like $1,200. And so it was a good deal for them, and wound up being a good deal for us. And we wouldn't serve any alcohol on Tuesdays. Yeah. But we started out with a beer and wine, and then we got to a liquor license, and we would have every other day. It was just this eclectic, weird mix. And so Fridays we would have DJs and like electronic music, and then Saturdays were rock bands, and then every other day was just whatever random whoever I could book. And so I was doing 35 shows a week, and then I realized, why am I doing 35 shows for anywhere from 5 to 300 people? Why don't I just do one show every 3 months for 5,000 people? And I started getting into doing that, and I was
in a
working with
1,300
people.
square foot building.
No, it's 1,305 square feet.
Yeah.
and now I remember my rent was $1,305 a month.
Yeah.
But there were several
You know
months.
how many fire codes you're breaking right now?
Constantly.
Yeah.
Constantly. And that was always an issue. The capacity, they gave me a capacity of 92 people.
Oh, gosh.
So, and literally it was empty. It was standing room only, nothing in it except the stage, the sound booth, and the bar. And the bar was, originally when you walked in, it was along the side. And one day I had a big weekend. And at Saturday at like 3 a.m, I start tearing out the bar. And it took me till Friday personally to do it. I remodeled the whole thing. I like painted the ceiling. I did plumbing. I'd never done plumbing before, but I figured it out. I actually wound up doing it to code. The code inspector came in and was like, "What is this? Did you pull a permit for this?" I was like, "Did I pull a what?" And he looked and he's like, "All right, you did everything right except you need an air gap here." I'm like, "Okay, what's an air gap?" And it's kind of like where you have this.
It's a
this
trap.
gap, and the sink comes like this, and it actually falls here, and then goes through the little J pipe out. I was like, okay, great. So I moved the bar this way, and it worked better for the space, and yeah.
So you were the first woman judge elected in court. Is it number 3?
Right.
That's awesome.
It is interesting when you think about it because courts are numbered based on when they were created.
Yeah.
Right? So that makes County Criminal Court number 3 a really,
Very old
really
court.
old court.
Yeah.
When was it founded? When was it created?
It was
at least 100 years, right?
Well, I don't know about that, but it was a long time ago. You could tell by the pictures on the wall,
Oh, yeah.
They
Yeah.
look like, Leave It to Beaver's dad at the gray, and he's got a cigar in his hand on the picture.
Yeah.
That's what the judge is doing on the pictures, and it should progress.
I bet they used to smoke in court.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, yeah, right?
And they
Yeah, of
still
course.
do that in
I mean, look
some
at the
counties.
old
Do they
days,
really?
yeah.
In some small counties where you
bet.
only have one district court judge.
They
and
do whatever they want.
He's walking around with a gun in his waist and a,
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
fishing pole in the corner, and he's smoking in his office. Who's going to do anything about it? I mean, cigars. And,
I think some of those small
and-
counties are fun
and-
to go to.
And whiskey, it is just
Yeah.
standard operating
Yeah.
procedure. But it was a very old court, and it's very interesting. It's really profound because I'm not only just the first woman, I'm the first African American to be a judge in that court. So when juries come in, sometimes I'm not processing it all. I mean, I'm not processing it all the time, but they'll look and they'll see my picture over here, and then they'll look over there, and they'll see, and they'll look, and then I say, yes, that's me over there, and that's them over there. This is a new day in this court. And
That's awesome.
Was your court
it
originally
is.
in the Little Red Courthouse?
It was in no, that old red, the old red was never. I don't even know if it was really a seriously courthouse. The courthouse where, the trials for the murder of John F. Kennedy and all that
Yes.
stuff. That was in.
They
the
had a
old-
trial for the murder of John F. Kennedy?
No.
Oh, my goodness.
No, that grassy knoll situation
Well,
is just all.
I thought he
rumor.
got shot.
But
I thought he got shot before. I thought when he got shot, it was like minutes or days after Kennedy was. Was there a
John-
gap between
John
them?
F. Kennedy
F.
is who
Kennedy
she's talking
is-
No,
about.
John F. Kennedy. I know John F. Kennedy got shot on the grassy knoll. What I'm
Right.
saying is the murder trial, because I thought Jack Ruby killed Lee Harvey Oswald.
He did.
Right.
He
But
did.
was Lee Harvey Oswald on trial?
he was arrested.
He was
Yeah,
arrested.
And so
'Cause I
the-
thought this kind of went down pretty quickly.
It did.
It kind of did.
Okay.
But the old criminal courthouse is located across from the grassy knoll.
Oh, I got you.
And it also had a jail. The jail
Oh, yeah,
was
yeah.
also downtown too. So that old criminal courthouse is where the probate courts were.
Oh,
in-
okay.
Back in the day, but that's where they had put those.
Okay, cool.
So probate court number 1 is the old actual courtroom where they brought Jack Ruby
Oh, wow.
in and all that.
Oh
And
yeah,
then so
because I guess
So much-
Ruby would have had a trial then.
Yes.
It was the
Right?
So
old
much
criminal
history
courthouse.
down there. So
Mhm.
much.
Wow. Oh yeah.
The old
Yeah.
criminal courthouse now, and it houses the auditor's office or something, and it's a bunch of other stuff. But and it still says up there the old criminal courthouse. So that's where your courts were.
It's beautiful. That courthouse is
Oh
beautiful.
yeah. It's actually a nice area
Oh, yeah.
if you can avoid whatever random gunfire happens to be there on any particular
I
day.
worked, so I used to work at the Bob Steak and Chop House inside the
Nothing?
Omni. I
No one
ran
about
it
my
for 7 years.
Oh,
gunfire in
really?
downtown
Yeah.
Dallas comment?
So
Love that very
I am very familiar with that area.
It's only
and
been like a
everything.
couple of times.
So
Well, they renovated that old criminal courthouse building. It took them, I would say, maybe 7 years.
7 years?
6 or 7 years. They just moved
When
in.
did they move to
They just
Crowley?
moved back in. The courthouse, the Crowley has been there a long, long time now.
Oh, yeah.
But the old.
And
but the
you're in
old-
Crowley, right? Yeah,
I'm
you're
in Crowley. And the old criminal courthouse, though, was renovated, and they moved everybody to the Renaissance Tower. And they were there for like 5, 6, 7 years. It's been.
Wow.
It's been like 6 years at least.
Oh, recently this happened?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh. I haven't been in the criminal courts in
probate
years.
courts were in the Renaissance Tower, which is very odd considering that's the mental health courts and the mental
Yeah.
health. I mean, it's and it's probate, so you got a lot of elderly people trying
Oh,
to
yeah.
navigate getting downtown and get into the Renaissance. That's hard for me on my best
yeah.
day
Yeah.
to park downtown and navigate those
Please
buildings.
don't get offended, but I like Collin County better. It's basically just the parking. You can park right there and walk right in.
I'm not at all
I hate having to
offended.
park in Dallas. Do you park in the main garage, or do you have like a different judge's garage?
The
or something?
judges have, and for security purposes, and I took it for granted, but we're very lucky in Dallas that the judges have
Yeah.
secured parking. And we're not
I
the
think you
only
need that.
employees. There's some DAs and some other positions in the building, the sheriff and all that. They have the secured parking.
Yeah.
But there are many judges that park in the parking lot across the field, and they just have to stomp across the street with everybody else.
Oh, wow.
And hope for the
Yeah.
best.
Yeah.
But at least I didn't think much about it until we started seeing these judges and getting killed and their families getting murdered
Oh,
and
yeah.
people going to their
Oh,
homes.
it's terrible.
It's horrible.
Have you ever had any
Yeah.
clients that have you lost any clients from something like that?
Have I lost
In your-
clients?
Yeah, when you were practicing as an attorney.
Not from anything. No.
Do you have any
I never
suicides
had any.
while you're representing them?
I never had suicides among clients, but I've had suicides among friends, attorneys.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. It's
I
so
mean,
sad.
that is far more.
Brian. I won't mention the last name out of respect.
I
But
mean, it's a few.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's over 3 or 4, and that's a lot of attorneys. I have had another very personal friend that committed suicide. So this is something
that is
that
also
happens.
one of the points of the podcast, because we talk a lot about law firm management and how to do this and having the right mindset. Mindset is everything. You don't get to suicide if you're in the right mindset, and that's a fundamental error in someone's mindset, that you think you need to take your life, because you don't. It never gets to that, unless, I don't know, if I thought I was going to be jailed for a long period of time, maybe, or something. I don't know, like if I was accused of something, and
I think
I don't even know that I would
think
do that.
most people, it gets to suicide, and you're talking about clinical depression.
Yeah.
People who usually struggle. It's usually not a one time. I'm just deciding today I'm going to go do it.
Right.
I mean, this has been something
Yeah.
that's manifested itself in over a period of time, and you've struggled with it, and then something may just push you over the edge. You can't take it. That I think suicide is at the pinnacle of misery for somebody to take their own life. But law practice management, what I find more often is that the stress of managing a law practice, and whether you're a small firm, a solo, or even you're at a firm, the practice of law is fraught with stress. It's from
Absolutely.
stress from the moment you take the LSAT, and it never ends until you die. Hopefully of natural causes. That's just the way the practice of law is built. And if you don't learn how to manage it,
if you're thinking about going to law school.
oh no, it's a lot of pressure. And you just think
Yeah.
about the concept of having people's lives, liberty, and their property.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The life
Well, I
of
can't-
kids
I-
on your responsibility. If you take it
That's why I don't
seriously,
do criminal anymore.
Well-
and God, you sitting on that bench making those decisions,
You're doing family law. That's one of the.
I'm gonna tell you though.
it's crazy though. So it's kind of like, with criminal defense, I don't know. I could never sleep the night before trial or things like that. But with family law, I know we're always gonna be fine. I know we're always gonna win. I know it's always gonna come out good enough. I know we're always gonna get
Yeah.
what we need, even if it's not absolutely everything that we want. But I can't think of an instance.
For you,
I'd have to think about-
you're like that, but not for the client.
Well,
the
no, for the
client's a
client.
whole
No,
nother
I'm talking
ballgame.
about for me as a lawyer.
Yeah.
For the clients, it's a nightmare. And that's why we try and do everything possible to avoid court. And, court is torture for them. It's lawyer Disneyland for me. I love going to court
Well,
in family
you're
law.
a litigator, and as am I, and I love going to court. But as you know, you really try to get it done in mediation, because that's
Oh,
the
yeah.
only time your client has an opportunity to influence the outcome. Because once he comes to me, it's on me. I'm making the decision. You
yeah.
don't get to make the decision anymore. So
That's right.
I suggest you make this decision before you get to me.
Right.
If you come to me with an agreement, 9 times out of 10, that agreement is going to work. We're going to give
Well, in family law, it's like 999 out of 1,000. It's going to be approved. In criminal law, you may
Same
look at this
thing.
and go, "What?" As a judge, sometimes.
It's still the settlement plea
Yeah.
agreement rate is still the same pretty much
Is
for
it? Okay.
criminal as it is in civil matters and family matters. But I'm gonna say this: family clients are far more dangerous than your criminal. Criminal, you don't.
Yeah.
I've never been afraid of a criminal defendant.
What type of
It's
criminal cases did you take?
Family, I did it all.
Did you
when
do
I
murder?
was practicing, yeah.
No kidding, really. Nice.
Yeah, and sexual assault.
Wow.
My very first trial
never-
was a sexual assault of a child,
Oh,
delayed
wow.
outcry.
Wow.
And my very first jury trial as a criminal defense attorney.
You weren't in the deep end. You were dropped in the middle of the ocean.
I was, and had no idea.
And no land in sight.
I
Figure
was
it out,
made.
Audrey.
Yeah, it was, but I was made I was appointed co-counsel to work with another attorney who was gracious enough to allow me to do
Nice.
it because I needed the experience.
Yeah.
And when I signed up for it, I did not know what the case was. I was like, I need a trial judge, and she was like, say, can she work with you? And of course, the guy's not gonna say no. He's like, yes, judge, I'll take the little nobody who knows nothing. And we got a hung jury on that. That's a win in a
That's a
case
win.
like that's a win in a case.
That's a big
like
win
that.
in a case like
and
that.
he got time served
Oh, wow.
on the But having said that, it was a tough case.
Yeah.
But it's the family clients, and I did family law, as you well know. I did a lot of family law, child welfare, what I like to call it domestic relations, which is expensive family law.
Oh, is that it?
Yeah, domestic relations.
Brenda, we need to add on domestic
That's
relations.
expensive family law because I could just it's not worth it. You have clients you work your behind off for, and they're never happy. You can get them the dog, the cat, the house, the boat, and they still leave, angry and dissatisfied.
You know what our
with
solution
you've
to that
done.
is in our branding and marketing. Because for example, soft divorce, people like that don't want a soft divorce. We get clients that want a healthy solution. I mean, there's some that come in like that.
Oh, yeah.
But overall, our client base, I would say, is somewhere between 85 and 95% better than every other family law firm's client base. And it's because of the way that we brand. And I tell every single one, we have a very strict no revenge policy. If you want revenge, we are not the right law firm for you. You won't be happy with us. We won't be happy with you. You'll fire us or we'll fire you.
I know I had a principle of the thing. So I would ask in your interview, when you're interviewing each other, really, like, what is the outcome? If you could have the best, if you could be Christmas, and the best outcome in this case you could have. And we talk about that, and I said, well, are you here because you want the best interests of your child, the best outcome for your divorce or whatever situation, or is it the principle of the thing? And if the principle of the thing, that's going to be an extra $7,000. Just for that, when you tell me it's the principle of the thing, that's an upcharge for principles. Principles cost. Because we about to argue over plants, and
you can either be right or you can be happy.
Right.
You want to prove that you're right?
Yeah.
And a lot of times I'll tell them, hey, you're right. Or I'd give them the should and fair. There's an S word and an F word, should and fair. Here's what's fair. You wouldn't need a divorce. You have a very healthy marriage, and everything in your life would be going great because of the effort that you're putting in. So that's what should happen, and that's what would be fair.
Right.
But since we can't have that, we're going to make the best of it until we get to, that's fine. Okay, that's fine. That will work. And ideally, we focus on what's healthy, because when you use healthy as your guidepost, not how much can I get selfishly, when you use healthy takes in a big picture, and healthy is something that they can look at and believe in. And then when we find and get to something that's healthy, we get through the process way, way better with our clients.
And that's awesome, but there are narcissists out there needing divorce too.
Yeah.
So
the narcissist is the worst.
You have a
dealing with
client
it.
base, and you market it to that, and that's great. But there are a whole lot of people that need divorces that
I
will
know.
be serviced by other attorneys, and
I
they're
know.
gonna struggle because
yeah.
family is just hard. Criminal, the issues by which somebody is accused, and the penalty of having your life being placed in being incarcerated is difficult, but you can understand that. People, you have clarity
family law, they're
on
having
what
this
that
argument with the other side that they can't quit having.
It's emotional. It's
Yeah.
very, very
Exactly.
emotional investment, and the clients are emotionally invested. And one of the things I don't miss, and I'll be honest with you, that the family bar it seems to have changed over the years, and that the attorneys have somehow taken on the emotion
you can't do
and
that.
pain of the client. And as I was closing my practice, I remember getting into these discussions with the other guy. I was like, sir, I didn't cheat on you. I don't understand, opposing counsel person,
Yeah.
why you're angry at me. I didn't do anything to you. This is between them, but you seem to be carrying
Yeah.
on this case as
Especially
if
for cheating. Everybody gets a divorce for a reason. It's rare that somebody that when they cheat, it's rare that cheating is not just a symptom of an unhealthy marriage, as opposed to somebody necessarily doing something wrong. I mean, a lot of times it is. A lot of times one person is just in the wrong, but it depends.
The Lawyer Dana Podcast.